Ethan worked in a small workshop on the edge of the orbital station. The room was warm and filled with soft light from old lamps he had repaired himself. The scent of metal and gentle engine oil always stayed in the air. His tools were neatly arranged on a long table, each one cleaned and placed with care. He liked quiet days like this, when nothing broke in a dangerous way and no one rushed him. He enjoyed simple work. Fixing things made him feel calm. The station around him was always busy, but his workshop felt like a peaceful corner far from noise. Aliens from many worlds came to him for repairs because he always treated their things gently. He never judged them and never rushed them. He believed every machine, no matter how small, deserved a careful hand. That morning, Ethan was wiping dust from his bench when the door opened with a soft chime. An alien parent stepped in. The parent was tall with blue skin and soft white lines glowing across its arms. Their eyes were large and gentle, showing worry. "Hello," Ethan said with a warm smile. "What can I help you with today?" The alien lifted a small object wrapped in a cloth. When they opened it, Ethan saw a little dragon toy. Its wings were bent, and its body had several cracks. One bright crystal eye flickered weakly. "It belongs to my child," the parent said slowly in accented English. "It stopped working last night. They cried for a long time. Can you fix it?" Ethan took the toy carefully, holding it like it was made of glass. The dragon was painted red and gold, and even though it was small, it had a proud shape. He could imagine a child hugging it. He nodded at the parent. "I will do my best. I think it can be fixed. You can come back later today." The parent gave a soft bow of thanks and left the workshop. When the door closed, the room became quiet again. Ethan set the toy on his table and studied it. He touched the cracks lightly with his fingers, feeling the damage. "Poor thing," he whispered. "Must have taken a fall. Let's get you back to life." He reached for a small screwdriver and began opening the dragon's outer shell. He moved slowly so he would not hurt any of the delicate parts inside. He talked to himself as he worked, a habit he picked up when he first started fixing things. "Wings are bent, wires inside look old, and that crystal I might need new power," he murmured. Nothing too serious. The inside of the toy surprised him. The circuits were arranged with strange patterns he had not seen in common toys. There were tiny metal threads woven in circles around the core. They shimmered faintly, as if they still held some energy. Even so, Ethan stayed calm. He adjusted the wings, straightened the wires, and cleaned the inner parts with a steady hand. He enjoyed the work. The world outside could be loud and fast, but here, he could give something small the attention it needed. He did not know that while he worked, someone was watching. A camera in the corner of the workshop blinked gently. It was part of the station's security system. Normally, no one paid attention to it. But today, a young alien officer named Lira had chosen to watch the live feed. She had been assigned to study small repairs across the station. They were searching for hidden dangers or strange signals. When she saw the odd patterns inside the dragon toy, she grew curious. She zoomed in on the feed, watching Ethan's hands move with patience. She expected a human to call for help or panic at unfamiliar tech. But Ethan did not. He simply continued working, humming lightly under his breath. Lira leaned closer to her screen. She had never seen a human mechanic work with such calm. He did not show fear, even when sparks flickered from one of the toy's tiny circuits. He just smiled softly, like comforting the toy. Even through the camera, she could sense that he cared about the child who owned it. He treated the toy not as a machine, but as something with meaning. Surprised her. She had heard humans could be gentle, but she never understood how deeply that gentleness could run. Meanwhile, Ethan found the crystal eye and connected a new power wire to it. The eye glowed brighter. He smiled in satisfaction. "There we go," he said softly. "You'll shine again." He closed the shell and polished the dragon's surface. The cracks were still there, but they looked softer now, almost like marks of adventure. When he lifted the toy and tapped its body, the wings opened smoothly. The dragon let out a small, cheerful sound. Ethan laughed quietly. "Good as new." He placed the toy on a clean cloth and rested his hands. He did not know what the watcher had seen or thought. He simply felt happy that a child would smile again. Through the security feed, Lira continued watching him. She wondered why a simple human mechanic could make such a difference without even trying. And for the first time, she wanted to meet him. Ethan returned to his workshop early the next day. The soft hum of the station flowed through the walls, steady and familiar. He enjoyed mornings because they gave him quiet time to think before customers arrived. He set his tools in a neat line and checked the small dragon toy again, making sure nothing had loosened overnight. The little figure seemed almost alive with its bright crystal eye shining softly in the dim room. He smiled at it. "Your owner will be happy to see you again," he said in a gentle voice. He did not talk to machines because he thought they could hear him. He talked to them because it made the work feel warm. He did not know that, at the same hour, Lira was walking quickly through the security office halls. She had barely slept. She kept thinking about the strange woven circuits inside the toy and the calm human who fixed it. She carried a small data tablet filled with notes she gathered during the night. As she entered the office, the other officers greeted her politely. She gave short nods back, her mind elsewhere. She went straight to her station and pulled up the feed from Ethan's workshop again. She watched him move around the small room with slow, steady steps. "Why are you so calm?" she whispered to herself. Most humans she had met were loud or easily scared by unfamiliar technology. But this one seemed different. Ethan picked up a tiny brush and cleaned the dust from the dragon's wings. The crystal eye flickered happily. He worked with soft focus, unaware of anything outside his workshop. Lira watched him for several minutes before opening her notes. She had written down every pattern she saw inside the toy. The strange wiring looked almost ceremonial, not something used in common toys. She wondered if the parent knew what they had brought in. She wondered if Ethan had understood any of it. She replayed the moment he discovered the inner design. He had paused only for a second, then continued working as if nothing was strange. That moment replayed in her mind again and again. The station lights shifted slightly as the morning cycle fully began. Ethan set the brush aside and checked his repair logs. He wrote down the steps he had taken to fix the dragon toy, noting the circuits, the cracked frame, and the crystal replacement. But he left one thing out: the hidden module he had found. He had placed it in a small metal box at the back of his table. He had planned to bring it to station security later in the day. He did not wish to worry the alien parent with talk of hidden parts or strange signals, especially if it turned out to be nothing. Ethan opened the box and looked at the small module again. It was no bigger than a coin, but its metal surface shimmered with shifting lines. He ran his finger across it slowly. "What are you?" he wondered. "You don't belong in a child's toy." He did not see the camera blinking softly in the corner, but Lira did. She leaned closer when she saw him open the box. She could tell he had found something unusual, even if he had not spoken a word about it. She traced the lines on the screen. The module looked similar to devices used long ago by smugglers who hid communication parts inside harmless objects. Most of those devices had been destroyed or locked away. Yet this one had appeared inside a simple child's toy. She frowned. "Why would a human hide this instead of calling us immediately?" she asked quietly. "Is he afraid? Or does he know something?" Ethan closed the box and returned to the toy. He checked the wings again, making sure the gears worked smoothly. He liked to be certain that everything he fixed stayed fixed. As he worked, the door chime rang softly. An alien customer entered, greeting him politely. Ethan smiled, put the toy aside, and went to help them. Lira watched his easy movements, the gentle way he spoke, and the honest look in his eyes. She found it hard to believe he was hiding anything dangerous. Yet the rules were the rules. The module was suspicious, and she needed answers. That afternoon, after finishing her shift, Lira left the security office with firm steps. She carried her tablet close to her chest. She had made a decision. She would speak to Ethan directly. She wanted to understand why this quiet human mechanic handled strange technology with such calm. She wanted to know why he had chosen not to report the unusual module right away. And deep inside, She wanted to see for herself whether the kindness she saw on the screen was truly real. Ethan, meanwhile, continued his simple work, unaware that someone was walking toward him with questions that would change both of their days. Lira walked through the station halls with steady steps, her mind full of questions. She replayed the security footage in her head again and again. The human mechanic, Ethan, had worked with calm hands and a soft voice, even when he found the strange hidden module inside the dragon toy. Most humans would have reacted with surprise or worry, but Ethan had simply continued repairing the toy, like it was just another simple task. The more she thought about it, the more curious she became. She had a duty to check the situation, but something else pushed her forward too. Something she did not fully understand yet. As she reached the workshop area, she slowed down. The hallway outside Ethan's shop was quiet. The soft glow of station lights reflected off the metal floor. She could hear faint sounds inside the workshop. Gentle tool movements, light humming, and the occasional soft click. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. Ethan stood at his table with his back turned. He was adjusting a small device, humming quietly like he always did when he worked. When the door chime rang, he looked up with warm eyes. "Hello," he said kindly. "How can I help you?" Lira hesitated for a moment. She had spoken to humans before, but this one felt different. His workshop felt peaceful. Even the air seemed calmer here. She held her data tablet close to her chest and stepped forward. "I am Officer Lira," she said in a careful voice. "I work in station security. I would like to speak with you about something." She tried to keep her tone polite, not wanting to sound harsh. Ethan nodded calmly. "Of course. What do you need?" She looked around the workshop, noticing how clean everything was. Every tool had a place. Every surface was tidy. The small dragon toy sat on a soft cloth, its crystal eye shining brightly. "I saw your repair work on that toy," she said. "I was monitoring the feed." She watched his face for any sign of fear or guilt. Instead, Ethan nodded again, simple and open. "I thought someone might check in on it. The wiring inside was unusual." Lira blinked. He was honest about it without hesitation. She felt a small wave of relief but stayed focused. "You found something hidden inside the toy," she said. "A small module. I saw you place it in a box. May I see it?" Ethan turned, opened the metal box on the back of his table, and handed the module to her without resistance. "I planned to bring it to security after finishing the repair," he said. "I didn't want to upset the parent. Their child was already sad." Lira held the module in her hands. Up close, it looked even more unusual. The metal lines shifted across its surface in slow waves. It was clearly not part of any normal toy. "You knew this might be dangerous," she said softly, "and you still worked on the toy without calling us first. Why?" Ethan paused. He leaned against his workbench and thought for a moment before speaking. "I didn't know if it was dangerous," he replied, "but I knew the toy meant something to the child, and I didn't want them to be without it any longer than necessary. I thought, if I could keep the emotional part simple and safe, I should try." Lira looked at him carefully. "You cared more about the child's feelings than your own safety?" He smiled a little. "I guess so. People get scared enough on stations like this. Sometimes a small thing can help more than we think." Lira felt something shift inside her. Humans had a reputation for being bold, loud, stubborn, and sometimes reckless. But she had not heard many speak with this kind of soft reasoning. She studied Ethan a little longer before speaking again. "This module might be linked to old smuggler tech. We are still checking the records. It should not have been inside a toy. You may have uncovered something important without meaning to." Ethan nodded, still calm. "I understand. I'm glad I could help." He said it with such simple honesty that Lira felt a strange warmth in her chest. She was not used to humans who were gentle. Most she worked with caused problems, argued with officers, or acted without thinking. But this one was different. She handed the module back to him. "I will take this to the lab, but I may need to return with more questions. Will you be here?" The corner of Ethan's mouth lifted. "I'm always here. It's hard to drag me away from my tools." He laughed softly. Lira found herself smiling too. Just a little. Good. Thank you for your cooperation. She turned toward the door, feeling lighter than when she arrived. As she stepped out into the hallway, she glanced back once. Ethan had already returned to his gentle work, humming softly as he cleaned up his tools. And for the first time, Lira felt a growing curiosity not just about the strange module, but about the human who treated machines and people with such quiet care. Ethan worked quietly in his workshop the next morning. The soft lights above him glowed like a warm sunrise. He sorted small metal pieces into tiny boxes and cleaned the tips of his tools. This was his morning routine, and it made him feel ready for the day. He kept thinking about Officer Lira's visit. She had been calm but serious, and her questions had been direct. Still, she had listened to him with honest attention. Most officers did not do that. Ethan respected her for it. As he put a tool away, his eyes drifted to the small metal box on the back of the table. The box was empty now. Lira had taken the strange module to the lab, but the memory of it stayed in his mind. It had looked unusual, almost alive, with shifting lines that glowed faintly. He wondered what the lab would find. He shook the thought away for now. Worrying would not help. He returned to a small cleaning job until the soft chime of the door rang. The alien parent from before stepped into the workshop. Their tall frame moved gracefully, and their glowing white lines shimmered softly in the light. They held their hands together with gentle hope. Ethan smiled warmly. You came back. Good. The toy is ready. The parent's eyes brightened. My child asked for it all night. May I see it? Ethan picked up the dragon toy from the soft cloth. The wings moved smoothly when he lifted it, and the crystal eye glowed with strong warm light. He placed it gently into the parent's hands. The parent looked at it with relief and joy. Thank you, they said softly. This toy means so much to them. You have made their heart light again. Ethan felt a quiet happiness in his chest. I'm glad it could be repaired. It was a good design. Strong, but worn with love. The parent nodded with gratitude and handed over the payment. With one more bow, they left the shop, holding the toy close. Ethan stood for a moment, enjoying the warmth of the moment. He liked small wins like this, moments where his work made someone's day better. But he did not know that someone was watching the parent through another camera in the hallway. Lira stood in the security room, eyes on the screen as the parent walked by with the repaired dragon toy. She felt a small sense of relief that the child would be happy again. But her focus shifted to the larger question. The hidden module. She turned to her tablet. The lab results had arrived. The module was not a normal toy part. It was an old communication chip from a smuggler group that had disappeared years ago. The chip had been inactive for a long time, but it still held traces of coded signals. Lira frowned. Why would a parent unknowingly carry something linked to smugglers? And how had the module ended up inside a child's toy? She rewatched the footage of Ethan fixing the toy. She studied the moment he found the hidden module. His expression had not shown fear or greed. He had simply taken it out and continued working, calm and gentle as always. She wondered what he had thought when he found it. She wondered why he chose not to report it immediately. But deep inside, she felt she already knew the answer. His kindness had guided him first. His sense of duty had come second. Later that day, Lira left the security office with new purpose. She needed to learn more about the toy's origin. She traced the purchase records. The toy had been bought from a traveling merchant months ago, one who had suspicious ties. But the merchant had left the station long ago. As she walked through the halls, she tried to piece the puzzle together. A hidden module, a traveling merchant, an innocent child, and a human mechanic who had uncovered it all without even realizing how important it was. She reached Ethan's workshop again. The door was half open, and she heard him moving inside. She stepped in slowly. Ethan, she said. Her voice was calmer this time. He looked up from his work with the same warm expression. Officer Lira, back again. She nodded. I wanted to tell you, the module you found is connected to old smuggler signals. It may help us find out what happened to a missing group. Your discovery could be important. Ethan blinked, surprised but still steady. I didn't expect that. I just thought it didn't belong in a toy. You were right, Lira said softly. And because of you, we have a lead that we didn't have before. Ethan smiled gently. I'm glad if it helps. Lira looked at him for a moment with quiet respect. She had met many humans, but this one stood out. He didn't try to be a hero. He didn't look for attention. He simply did what felt right. As she left the workshop, she felt something new growing inside her. A growing trust. And for the first time, she wondered if this simple human mechanic played a bigger role in the future than he realized. A few days later, Ethan continued his usual routine in the workshop. The soft hum of the station felt familiar and comforting. He cleaned and organized his tools, checked his repair logs, and polished small devices he had fixed earlier. The workshop was a quiet world of its own, where time moved at a steady, gentle pace. The door chime rang softly. Ethan looked up and saw the alien parent from before entering, carrying a small package. Their large eyes were warm and grateful. Hello, Ethan said with a smile. How is the toy? Perfect, the parent replied, holding out the package. Our child is so happy. They asked me to bring this back for you. Ethan accepted the package carefully and untied the simple wrapping. Inside was a small token made of shining crystals. It was clearly handmade, and it glimmered softly under the workshop lights. Thank you, Ethan said, his voice gentle. This is beautiful. We are grateful, the parent said. You treated our child's toy with care and respect. Most humans are fast and careless. You are different. Ethan shook his head softly. I just wanted to help. Sometimes even small things matter a lot. The parent nodded, clearly moved by his honesty. They stayed for a few moments, sharing quiet words of gratitude. Then, with one more bow, they left, holding the package and the repaired dragon toy carefully. After they left, Ethan set the token on a small shelf. He smiled quietly to himself. Simple acts could make a big difference, and this reminder warmed him. Later that day, Lira returned to the workshop. She stepped in without hesitation, feeling more comfortable now. Ethan looked up, his calm smile welcoming. I wanted to ask you a few questions, she said softly. About the module you found in the toy. Ethan nodded, setting aside his tools. Of course. What would you like to know? Lira pulled out her tablet and showed him diagrams and readings from the lab. The module had old communication lines used by smugglers long ago. The patterns were complex, but Ethan followed along patiently. I see, he said after a moment. It was small and hidden, but it didn't seem dangerous. I only wanted to protect the child from worry. Lira nodded, impressed by his calm reasoning. You could have called security immediately, but you chose kindness first. Ethan smiled. Sometimes, helping someone feel safe matters more than rushing to rules. I still believe we need to report unusual things, but gently when the time is right. Lira looked at him thoughtfully. She had met humans who were clever or strong, but few who were so gentle and patient. She felt a quiet admiration growing. You have a different way of seeing the world, she said. I think many could learn from you. Ethan shook his head modestly. I'm just doing what feels right. It's not about teaching anyone. They spent a few more minutes discussing the module and its possible origins. Lira explained what the signals might reveal, and Ethan offered simple suggestions for tracing the merchant who had sold the toy. They worked together without hurry, in quiet cooperation. As the discussion ended, Lira stood and gave a small bow of respect. Thank you, Ethan, for helping with this and for showing me a different way humans act. He nodded, returning the gesture. Thank you for trusting me to handle it. After she left, Ethan returned to his tools and the soft quiet of his workshop. He looked at the dragon toy sitting nearby, its crystal eye glowing warmly. He felt a deep satisfaction. Sometimes, a simple repair could have effects far beyond a single machine, reaching hearts and building trust across species. And in the quiet corners of the orbital station, a bond of respect and understanding had quietly begun between a human mechanic and the officer who had watched him. A few days later, Lira returned to Ethan's workshop. The soft hum of the station felt familiar now. She carried her tablet with the latest updates about the module and the possible links to the traveling merchant. She had learned much since her first visit, but her curiosity about Ethan had grown stronger. Ethan looked up from his workbench as she entered. "Officer Lira, welcome back," he said warmly. He had a calm smile that seemed to put everyone at ease. "Thank you, Ethan," she replied. "I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to ask a few more questions." He shook his head gently. "Not at all. Please, take a seat." Lira observed the small workshop. Every tool had its place, every surface was clean. The dragon toy rested nearby, its crystal eye softly glowing. Ethan moved quietly, carefully picking up parts and inspecting them. She noticed how patient and focused he was, even with the smallest of repairs. "I wanted to understand why you handled the module the way you did," she began. Most would have called security immediately, or at least paused their work. Ethan set down a small screwdriver and leaned against his workbench. "I wanted to protect the child. The module could have scared the parent. It didn't seem dangerous, but it was unknown. Sometimes it's better to handle things calmly first, then report them." Lira nodded thoughtfully. She had not expected such a simple, honest answer. She had always thought humans were either reckless or too cautious. Ethan showed both careful thought and gentle courage. "So you weren't afraid?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled a little. "Afraid doesn't help anyone. Staying calm does. I have worked with many strange machines. Patience has always been better than panic." Lira felt respect growing inside her. It was rare to find a human who acted with such kindness and confidence at the same time. She pulled up her tablet and showed Ethan the readings from the lab again. "The module is connected to old smuggler signals. We may trace the merchant who sold the toy through these codes. You unknowingly helped uncover something important." Ethan looked at the module on the screen, then back at Lira. "I'm glad. I didn't do it for recognition. I just wanted the toy fixed and the child happy." "And yet," Lira said, "your calm and honesty made it possible for us to follow the right path. I respect that." They spent the next hour examining the signals, tracing patterns, and discussing possibilities. Ethan's insight into small mechanisms proved helpful, even in this unusual case. Lira noticed how naturally he thought through problems, calmly and logically, without stress. As the meeting ended, Lira stood and gathered her tablet. She looked at Ethan with sincere gratitude. "Thank you for your help and for showing me how humans can act with care." Ethan nodded, a soft smile on his face. "Thank you for trusting me." She left the workshop feeling a quiet admiration. She had learned not just about the module and the signals, but about the character of a human who worked with patience, skill, and heart. And in that quiet workshop, Ethan returned to his tools, humming softly. He did not need recognition, yet his simple actions had already made a difference far beyond the walls of his small room. Lira returned to the station lab with the module in her hands. She studied it closely with her team, tracing the delicate lines and signals. The patterns revealed more about the old smuggler network than anyone had expected. They could now follow the traces and possibly find the merchant who had sold the toy months ago. While she worked, her thoughts kept returning to Ethan. She had watched him carefully handle the toy and the hidden module. He had stayed calm and gentle, even with something unfamiliar that could have been dangerous. Most humans would have panicked or called security immediately, but not him. Later, Lira decided to return to Ethan's workshop. She wanted to share what they had discovered and get his thoughts. She walked quietly through the hallways, her tablet ready with the latest readings. Ethan looked up when she entered, his calm smile welcoming her as always. "Back again, Officer Lira?" he said. "Yes," she replied. "We traced the signals from the module. It belonged to an old smuggler network. Your discovery could help us uncover their movements and possibly find the merchant." Ethan examined the module she handed back carefully. "I didn't know it was so important. I just thought it didn't belong in a child's toy," he said, voice gentle. "And yet," Lira said, "your patience and care made it possible for us to follow the trail properly. If you had panicked, we might have lost the lead." Ethan nodded, humble as always. I'm glad if it helps. I didn't expect it to matter so much. They worked together, examining the signals and discussing ways to track the merchant. Ethan's insight into mechanisms and circuits proved surprisingly useful in decoding the patterns. Lira found herself impressed by his quiet intelligence and careful thought. You have a way of seeing things others might miss, she said softly. Not just the toy, but everything connected to it. It's remarkable. Ethan smiled, looking at the small dragon toy on the table. I just pay attention to small details. Little things often make a big difference. Lira nodded, realizing the truth in his words. His actions had shown more than just mechanical skill. They had revealed a human's ability to act with kindness and thoughtfulness, even when it was not required. They continued their work for a while, tracing the signals and noting the locations the module had passed through. The process was slow but steady, just like Ethan's hands when he repaired the toy. When they finished, Lira looked at Ethan with sincere respect. Thank you for everything. Without you, this lead might have been lost. He shook his head softly. I only did what felt right. Helping is what matters. Lira smiled, understanding. She had learned much from this human mechanic. Not just about machines, but about patience, calmness, and quiet courage. As she left the workshop, she glanced back at Ethan. He had returned to his tools, humming softly, focused yet at peace. She realized that humans could inspire trust and respect through simple acts of care. And in that quiet workshop, a bond of mutual respect had formed, one that might shape more than just the fate of a single smuggler case. Days later, Lira returned to the workshop one final time. The station hummed softly around her, but inside Ethan's workshop, the quiet calm was even stronger. She had finished tracing the module signals and had shared the information with other officers. The missing merchant had been located thanks to Ethan's careful work. Ethan looked up from his bench as she entered. Officer Lira, good to see you again, he said with his usual gentle smile. Good to see you too, she replied. She held up a small data pad with the final report. We've traced the merchant and ensured that the module will no longer cause any trouble. The toy is safe, the child is happy, and the station can rest easier. Ethan nodded, his hands moving slowly as he cleaned a small tool. I'm glad. I only wanted to fix the toy, not cause problems. Lira watched him for a moment, feeling admiration and respect. Humans were often underestimated. Their strength, patience, and quiet courage could shine in ways others did not expect. Ethan had shown that clearly through a small dragon toy and a careful touch. Your actions remind me, Lira said softly, that even the smallest kindness can have a ripple effect. You have earned trust and respect without even trying. Ethan smiled humbly. I just do what feels right. Sometimes, that's all anyone can do. Lira nodded, then looked at the repaired dragon toy resting on the soft cloth. The crystal eye glimmered brightly, almost like it knew the journey it had been through. She felt a quiet warmth seeing it whole again. Thank you, Ethan, she said finally, for showing me how humans can act, with care, patience, and courage. It has changed how I see them. He nodded, smiling gently. I'm glad if it helped. She left the workshop, feeling a new sense of understanding and trust toward humans. She realized that sometimes heroism came not from grand gestures, but from quiet, careful acts that touched hearts and built respect across species. Ethan returned to his tools, humming softly, as the small dragon toy rested nearby. He did not seek recognition, but his simple, patient work had made a difference. The station was safer, the child was happy, and a bond of respect had been formed between two beings from very different worlds. In the quiet corners of the orbital station, a human mechanic continued his work, showing that kindness, skill, and thoughtful action could leave a mark far beyond what anyone expected. Sometimes, the greatest heroes were the ones who fixed a toy and unknowingly changed the hearts of all who watched.